do something every day that's going to take you closer to who and what you want to be. If that's a property developer, then doing those things to get you there. And then if you can do that consistently over, say, 6 months or a year, it's just phenomenal how much you can achieve.
You are listening to the Property Developer Podcast, your home for tips, ideas, and inspiration to help take your developing to the next level. Now here's your host, Justin Getty.
Hello and welcome to the Property Developer Podcast. As always, it is great to have you with me. I hope you're in fine spirits. I've just returned from a family holiday to Singapore, which was great fun. That place is a property developer's wet dream. There is so much development going on, it's mind-boggling. And they like to do buildings big over there. Everywhere you go, there is construction going on. It's great. That's one of the benefits of a centrally run state. No real planning issues to deal with. You just decide where you want to build things, and then you get them built. Unfortunately, I picked up a cold on the flight home, so I sound a bit under the weather. But I am on the mend. I'm pretty sure it isn't bird flu or SARS, so all good. Things continue apace on the townhouse project. Ground level brick walls are pretty much up, and they are starting to put the first level stud walls in. Next big achievement will be when the roof starts going on. No major issues lately to deal with. I've had to get another one of our buyer contracts reviewed by the bank's lawyers to ensure we comply with our loan conditions, as one of the bank guarantees used by one of the buyers expires within the 6-month period after our expected completion date, which the bank doesn't accept, and the buyer refused to pay the extra money that his bank was going to charge him for extending his guarantee. So in the end, it was easier to get another contract checked than haggle with the buyer about it. I will put some of the latest project pics on this show's page on the Property Developer Podcast website, so check them out if you want to see how the site is looking. So on to today's guest, property entrepreneur Matt Jones. Matt has an interesting story to tell about how he ended up doing developments. He has trodden the well-worn path of renovations to subdivisions, but along the way he has set up his own property network, grown a membership website, and been involved with lots of development deals. So much so that he has taken time out with his family to live in France for a couple of years. Très bon. In our conversation, we cover a lot of ground, including the importance of your mindset to creating the life that you want, how to stay focused, and what you need to do to take that developing business of yours to the next level. As Matt is living in France, I was looking forward to his answer about my first question on what he would eat until he was sick.
Probably baguettes at the moment. I've always been a big fan of baguettes, and obviously living in France now, that's something I enjoy with a bit of Nutella or something on it. So that or chocolate croissants I've grown very fond of, and yes, I often eat them till I get sick. Yeah, so but I am reasonably healthy, but that's my my vice.
Oh yeah, I can understand chocolate croissants. They'd be very easy to keep eating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've just started running though recently to sort of work all that off. Now that summer's coming, so I'm trying to get rid of them off my belly.
Well, that provides the perfect segue into finding out how a guy who kind of used to live in Brisbane, who's now living in France. Can you give us a bit of a background on your property developing story? And I guess it's weaved in with a bit of your personal story.
Yeah. How far do I go back? I left my job in 2007. So before that, I was a theatre technician, a lighting technician in theatre. So I did that for 15 years, got jack of it. Became a postie for a couple of years, and that was kind of like my transition job where I was just learning how to be an investor. I was very green back then, so the postie thing, cut my wage in half, but doubled the amount of headspace that I had available. So during that time, I did a couple of renos, and then got into subdivision, and that's when I left the postie job for good. And from there, just kept on, growing the business, I suppose. It wasn't even a business back then. It was just sort of fumbling my way through it and flipping property and trying to get into bigger deals and learn how to creatively fund the deals as the money sort of ran out and you hit glass ceilings and that sort of thing. Obviously, with a postie wage, I wasn't. The banks didn't really look at me. And then from there, we just kept going. Things got better. I learned how to joint venture. That's when things really sort of changed for me, where I understood the power of joint venturing and being able to do more deals at once. And then from there, my wife and I made a conscious decision just to step back from things, I suppose. I was getting too caught up in property and it was becoming more like a job. And then that's the reason why I left my job, is to sort of create that financial independence and sort of choice of when I worked. And as you probably know, the deals start rolling and it's exciting and you start getting caught up in it, which was great. Things were successful, but when you had to sort of take stock again and look at why we were doing this, and watching the kids grow up is probably the best way of halting you in your tracks and questioning what you're doing with your life. So that's when we made the decision to go to France and do something different and learn another language, get the kids involved in it and see it through their eyes. So we're still here, probably be here for another 9 or 12 months, I suppose, and once I come back we'll continue what we were doing. But learning to do it from here, from another country, has changed my whole approach to business and what we were doing before. So hopefully I can continue and what I'm doing now in Australia. But I think it's got a lot to do with the time zones, where you look at your calendar and there's nothing in it because everyone's asleep in Australia. So it does help with focusing on just thinking about your business, thinking about how you can create other streams of income rather than working on it and getting caught up with the day-to-day sort of life. So I think that's taught me to really manage my time better, delegate more, whereas before I was very sort of controlling, I suppose, a bit of a perfectionist sometimes. And since I've been here, I've really had to learn how to outsource that and bring in a good team to help me. So that's been a real positive thing from the business side of stuff. But also, just living in this other culture has been it's been a lot of fun, not without its challenges, that's for sure, with 2 young kids, but worth every moment we've been here.
Okay, well, there's quite a few things that you've thrown up there that I'd like to flesh out with you. The first thing, let's go back. What kind of deals were you immersed in, or what sort of projects was it that you were getting involved with that sort of became a bit overwhelming? What were those deals? What were those projects that you were looking at and being involved in?
Yeah, I started off in Reno, so it was just flipping deals, and then I got into small lot subdivision, and that I found that became my niche, I suppose, something that I enjoyed. Just 1 into 2, 1 into 3 sort of sites. I had a business partner who was a family member at the time, and together, she was the one we were borrowing money through. She had a good government job, and I didn't have a wage at all, especially once I left the postie job. So I was providing the time and the skill and finding the deals and doing the deals and managing them, whereas she would provide the finance side of things. So in effect, we were joint venturing in those early days, even though I didn't really know it. It was just sort of trying to make those deals work. And I kept doing those and just repeating the process and not really holding anything. And that's something that we reassessed later on. Okay, we need to start looking further down the track of the wealth creation plan, but before it was really just about surviving, just selling the stock, getting into the next deal, just building that capital base. From there, once my cousin and I went separate ways, I had to find a new way of bringing in money. I still really couldn't leverage off the money we were creating with the property business. It was just harder to get finances. So I met a lot of colleagues along the way. I run a property networking group in Brisbane, still do. It's been going for about 10 years. So everyone I've ever used in my deals has come from those meetings, just through attendees that have come along or sponsors that have helped me fund the event. So they've become close friends and colleagues, and a lot of them were more advanced, or still are more advanced than me as an investor and developer. So I've tapped into them really, and where I either bring investors in for them, or maybe I might find the deal or provide cash or servicing for a project, which has been great because it's meant I've been able to leverage into larger projects that normally I wouldn't be able to do, and I definitely wouldn't be able to be here in France with the sort of things that are going on now. But it allows me to sort of just be a part of it and continue to grow as an investor, and obviously build that wealth creation plan down the track.
And what kind of projects are those bigger projects that you wouldn't have been able to get involved with?
There's kind of medium to large developments. sort of inner city boutique sites, 6, 8 townhouses. Some have some commercial underneath with resi on top. There's some bigger deals coming through now that are sort of 30, 35 units, still sort of close within that sort of 3 to 5K radius of Brisbane. So it varies. It just depends on the deal and what's required, what cash is available. We're kind of, there's probably a few of us that are fairly close now, and we just kind of help each other out as far as what resources are required per deal. But those guys have grown as time's gone on and brought in bigger funders and hence gone on to bigger deals. So it's nice to be still involved with them as they grow, and I get to see it happen while it happens.
So is that people that were a part of your property network group?
Yeah, actually. The two guys I work with mostly were one of the first sort of members when we had the meetings in someone's lounge room. It used to be just a bit of a social event, pizza and beers, and everyone sit around talking about property. And then once it grew and we get 30, 40, 50 people, I had to sort of structure it better so there was a bit of an agenda. Otherwise, it was just turning into a Friday night drink session. But then I brought in some speakers, and then we got a hall, and I had to bring in sponsors to help fund the event. And now we generally get about 120 people come along each month, and there's a few thousand in the group now that are part of it. So that's thriving, which is great. And those guys were there in the first few days, just there, sitting on the couch, talking about properties, sharing referrals, running numbers and that sort of thing. So we've stayed in touch and become good friends, and we've all got families now, and we have social engagements too. So it's nice to be around people that you really trust, that are doing these great things and being a part of what they're doing, and I give back in my own way as well, and they're still part of the group now, and they benefit from being a part of that group as well. So it's very much a win-win scenario.
Yeah, I guess you're one of the few people, or one of the few developers I know that's actually created a property network. Was that a bit of a chicken or an egg situation for you? Did you create the network so that you could become a developer, or were you just interested in property and you evolved into doing development?
Yeah, it was a bit of a love gig in the beginning. I did a mentorship that was based in Melbourne at the time with Steve McKnight. That was the first sort of education at all that I had in property. And I was based in Brisbane at the time, so I kind of tried to grab the Brisbane contingency of that mentorship, and just said, "Hey guys, let's just go out to dinner and help each other," because that was, I guess, that was a selfish thing for me. I was very much wanted to be around people that could help me, and hopefully I could help them, but I didn't know anything then. It was just about getting in a room with others that were doing what I wanted to do, and they were all pretty green too. So it kind of grew from there, and we just tried to hold them regularly, and word got out. People started coming along, and the benefit I got from running those meetings was just the accountability, I suppose, in turning up every month, meeting people that were doing a myriad of different things in property, and just being around that. Every month we'd run it, whether I wanted to be there or not. I always walked away with something new, or I'd meet someone new, or hear a new strategy, or just something that I hadn't learned before. And I still get that to this day. That's still why we continue to run them. We had to turn it into more of a business a few years in, because it just got so big that it was taking a lot of my time. So I almost dropped the whole thing. Especially when we moved to the Sunshine Coast, it was just getting too much, and I decided to bring in some sponsors, bring in some helpers, stop doing the whole thing myself, and then from there it just kind of grew, and it just took on a life of its own, and it's still happening today. We still get sort of 30, 40 new people come along every month, and the feedback is the same every time. Why didn't I know about this 5 years ago? Or they're often surprised by the amount of integrity that's there, or the openness and people to share. We just seem to attract just quality people, that are really there to help and be open, and all different skill levels. There's a lot of just first timers that might have just picked up a book and decided they might want to do property. There's other mum and dad investors that are doing, small developments and subdivisions. And then there's the professional guys that are there doing commercial stuff and a whole range of things. So it's nice to be in a room with a whole heap of different skill level where we can rub shoulders together and give back and help each other out. The sponsors get benefit because they get access to a whole heap of potential clients, and then they pay me a fee to do that. But the sponsors are all hand-picked people that are colleagues of mine that I've worked with personally, so I'm more than happy to promote them. And it's not a sell-fest, it's purely a content networking night. So the sponsors that speak there, they have to provide good, valuable information, and just kind of give back. And from there, if people like them, if they resonate with them, then they'll use them. If it's a mortgage broker or a town planner or an accountant or whatever, it's not about sort of doing any sort of hard push on the night. It's just giving good content and providing a comfortable environment where people feel good about networking with each other. And then we have the members of the group actually get up and present their own deals, which is a lot of fun too. They get up and show the numbers and the photos and where they went wrong, where they went right, and that's really inspiring for the audience to see that and see that it's possible, see that there is risk. People make mistakes, they get it wrong, but they keep going. So yeah, it's a great night that we run, and very proud of what it's become, and we still get benefit, just from the people that I meet from those groups, that lead to, they might become joint venture partners down the track, or they might know of a deal that I can flick onto someone else, or whatever it is. It's just highly beneficial.
Yeah, I've got a small group of colleagues like that as well, that we all did a developing course together and we've stayed in touch. Yep. And yeah, it's invaluable being able to bounce around ideas and talk to them and find out what's worked for them, what mistakes they've made, those kind of things, because it can be a bit of a lonely game, particularly with property developing. There's not that many people who know exactly what you're doing and some of the issues and challenges that you're facing along the way. Yeah,
it's critical to have that accountability, because some days are not so great, and you haven't got a boss there to kick you up the bum, or you got to be motivated to move forward. And sometimes it's no fun, to have other people to bounce off, like you say, is invaluable. Someone called our meeting the other day the AA for property investors, because it was very much just like a support group that people would come along and. If they weren't getting support from their spouse or their family at home, you could come to this group and just be around other like-minded people that were happy to give back. So yeah, it's very important.
And have you got a secret handshake or some sort of special sign?
No, actually, but I have to think about that. We have to, because there's definitely a core group there that we could sort of work something out with. But yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah.
So when you bump into someone at the pub and you scratch your right-hand side of your nose.
Yeah. Oh, some of the people, it's hard to even remember names now. It used to be very intimate, and now it's just, I can't keep up. I try to touch base as much as I can, particularly now in France. I still watch the videos. I call people up. I offer them time to chat with me, just to remain part of that special group and give back where I can. And I think that sort of that keeps the integrity of the group. Yeah,
so you've talked about coming up with alternative revenue streams, and I presume this is one of them.
Yes, the property meeting, yeah. I've written a number of my own products as well. So I've got sort of an online membership site that was formed from the property group meeting. So when they first started, people were kind of saying, "Oh, you're recording tonight. I can't make it. My babysitter won't turn up." So, and I wasn't at the time. I thought, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'll start recording them." So yeah, we've been recording them for about 5 years now, and created a membership site where people can buy an annual membership, and if they come along, they get access to the recordings as well as there's this myriad of resources on there now. And so I wrote some publications just on my own experience called DIY kits, one for reno, one for subdivision, one for development, one for joint venturing. So I sell those online, which provides a little income stream, which is nice. And since I've been in France, I've just been focusing on that membership site and creating good content and working on my blog and just getting immersed in that whole online world sort of thing. Managed to bump into some great colleagues that have helped me take it to the next level. So yeah, that's something that I've been able to work on since I've been here, because I can't sort of go to construction sites or really be actively out there doing deals. So this is something that that allows me to be creative with, and I like writing. I like writing blogs and just anything really. So it's something I've put my mind to since I've been here, just to stay active and not eat too many croissants.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I've often wondered about how you can create those alternative income streams, and there's lots of things that you can do, but I'm always conscious about trying to be focused on being the best developer that I can be, and I'm happy to go off and do things providing that they kind of feed in to that.
Yeah.
So how do you find that in terms of, do you see it diffusing your focus, or is it really helping the long game?
No, it's definitely, they dovetail really well together. Yeah, and if they didn't, I probably wouldn't be doing it. But like yourself with your podcasting, it just keeps you sharp, I think. People are always wanting to ask you questions, and you're doing interviews and things, and I like it. I love property. I love being around it, love doing it. So this is kind of another outlet that's allowed me to tap into and create some income with it. Not as much as I would in property, obviously, but I do think it's important to have that extra income stream there, or a number of income streams, just to take the pressure off your development side of things. Obviously, that's your core income, but as you know, it can take 2 years or longer to get paid with a development unless you've got them going regularly. So you kind of need something to keep you rolling, to pay the rent, to just allow you to stop if you want to. But it's just a personal thing. I think everyone needs to just find that balance along the way. And for me, I definitely found like I was getting too caught up in being on site and, just pushing too hard. And that's when, we change things a bit. So when I go back, I'd like to have that balance where we continue to run the networking groups. I make some income from that, but still get into those deals along the way and create some passive income from the projects, as well as having something active that satisfies my creative juices as well.
So can you share a little bit more around what were all the things that you were doing? Like, why were you so busy?
Why was I busy? Good question. Well, it probably wasn't that I was busy. I just wanted more time with my family. I wasn't doing any more than 40 hours a week, really. And they were all from home. I was travelling a lot to Brisbane because all our projects have been in Brisbane, and we moved to Sunshine Coast in 2009 for lifestyle reasons. So I was driving down to Brisbane a lot. So it probably wasn't the projects that were making me busy. It was just the travel, and I just got more focused on family. I just thought, this is the time that I want to be with them, and that's just the most important thing to me. So I just got really clear on what was important. And so when I say I was too busy, I probably wasn't that busy. I was busy enough. Probably could have fit a lot more in, but that would have meant taking away from what I really wanted, which was time with family.
Yeah. Well, because I find with developing, it really does ebb and flow in terms of demands on your time. Like there'll be periods where it's just crazy. You've got phone calls to make and emails to respond to, things to solve, and then that period will pass, and then you're kind of almost at a loose end where you've got a lot more capacity. Yeah,
I guess that's what keeps us moving forward, because that lull's coming, and unless you've got them racked up, it's there's no income in that time frame, or there's nothing happening. You're just in a waiting phase, which can be frustrating. So you're always looking for that next project, so you're going to be fulfilled along that way. It does ebb and flow, and that's probably the beauty of property development. You can take time off when things are rolling. You're in a phase where you're not required, or you're just playing that waiting game with council or whatever it is. It just allows you to step back and do things, but sometimes you can't plan for those moments. So for me, it was just about having a bit of normality, and if we want to go on a holiday for a few months, then we can. It's just a personal thing. Everyone's got to find their balance and what's important to them, and there's no judgment around that. If someone wants to make $1 million to buy a couple of Ferraris, and go for it. That's awesome. Mine was just about stepping back and getting more time, and property was doing that for me. I just wanted a little bit more time, so I just stepped back a bit further. Because I know it'll always be there. I can go back and keep doing it, but I won't get this time back with my kids.
Yeah, or a couple of pan-au chocolades, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've got so many questions I want to ask you on so many different fronts, so I'm going to have to try and be focused.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the property developing products that you Let's talk about the property developing products that you came up with. So one was the DIY property development kit, something like that. And then you mentioned the joint venture kit. So can you just tell us about how you went about creating those and why you did them?
Yeah. I did them. I like writing, so that was something that I enjoyed doing, and I knew there was a niche in the market for it. I knew that I could, I would go to my list of a couple of thousand in my networking groups and go, what do you want? I've done a renovation kit, I've done a subdivision kit. Would you prefer this? Would you prefer this? And development was kind of the logical next step. And then joint venturing was something that I got asked a lot about, people asking for a joint venture template, or what are the risks, or what should I pay my partner, or how do I find them? There was so many questions out there. So that was always going to be the next one. And I just got a lot of satisfaction out of creating a resource that was that anyone could use. You could pick it up, go from start to finish. It wasn't a mentorship. I didn't sort of get into mentoring because I knew that's very time intensive, and I wouldn't do that unless I could commit to it properly, so that the students would get real results. And I just felt like I wouldn't be able to do that properly. So this was something that I could give back, create an income from myself as well. And I just felt like I was good at it. That I could package it up nicely so that people could, if they hadn't done any developing before, they could literally pick it up, read it, and understand it, and go and implement it without too much resistance and without too much cost. They're only about $500 to buy the whole resource, which isn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things when you could be paying 5, 10, 20 grand for a mentorship. Not that it's as hands-on or as good as a mentorship, if that's what you're after, but it's something that if you've got a bit of knowledge already and you just want to sort of get some background information or get a process or build some structure from it, then it's a great way to get into it. So, that was... Sorry?
And do people actually use it to do projects? Because my general feeling is that through developing, people do need their hand held for the first time, because there's so many questions that come up along the way. It'd be really great to have a sort of process map, which is kind of what it sounds like. But then you really need someone, well, one, to keep you accountable, and two, to answer those hundreds and hundreds of questions along the way. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree. And it's more something that, because I don't think you should get into development or anything really without educating yourself about it first. You can't sort of abdicate that. You can't you can pay someone to do it, but then you're just a silent partner or a money partner. If you have to get clear on why you're doing it, why you're getting into development. Is it something you want to get hands dirty with, or you just want to create a passive income and throw some money at something? Either way, I think you should have enough smarts to know that, at least the jargon, the terminology, how to work the numbers, how to know what a good deal is, what it looks like, market research, all that sort of stuff. So it's the development kit is for beginners, I suppose. So it's only up to 3 dwellings to keep it fairly simple. Otherwise, it would have been an epic resource that would have taken too long to write, because as you know, there's just a million things that can go wrong that you've got to manage. So I did keep it fairly simplified. I might do a version 2 down the track if I think there's a need, but I did keep it sort of fairly simple so that people could get in, have a starting point, have enough information to actually get out there and do it. And I'm still there as well. Like, I don't kind of go, here's your kit, thanks for your money, see you later. It's I still provide email access, some phone calls if you want it. And when people reach out to me, I'm always happy to give back, because if they've invested in something that I've created, I want to see them succeed. I'd love to see them create whatever they're trying to create, which doesn't mean creating 10 townhouses. It means creating the life that they want, and the development should get them there to do that. So if I can play a part in that, then that's my privilege. That's something that I get a kick out of. So unfortunately, I'm sure there's a lot of people that buy it and don't use it, where they're looking kind of for a magic pill, and here's one for $500. So I'll buy that and then not really do anything with it, and that's a shame. And I do try and follow people up and go and bring them into the community. So we have a forum, a Facebook group. I write a lot of blogs now, so I try to keep people engaged. And even if they're not ready now, maybe they made a rash decision at the time and they were all gung-ho and thought, yep, this is what I'm going to do, which is how I was in the beginning. And then it kind of life got in the way and family came along or other commitments, and then it just sort of stopped for a couple of years. Well, try and keep them there, and when they're ready to come back in, at least they've got something to start from, and maybe the next thing they need now is some mentoring because they can't do it alone, or they need that accountability or that person to hold their hand. And in those scenarios, I'll just refer them. I'll say, well, this guy's doing some good deals and he needs money partners, or this person over here I know is reputable and you might be able to get in with him to learn with him or her, or this guy does mentoring. He's mentored by him. I can honestly give them a good referral that I know that they'll be looked after. And that's come a lot from the networking group as well. It's nice to be able to just help people get in, and just point them in the right direction, or introduce them just to one person maybe that'll allow them to kick things off for themselves. And it's nice to be able to have that community around me that I can do that, and sort of, if I can't give them the answers, I can guarantee you I know someone that does, and I can just put them in touch with them.
So you're kind of property linchpin.
Yeah, I tried to define what I did a few years ago, and you imagine trying to explain it in French to people that ask. It's difficult enough in English. And it is a bit of a conduit I've become, where I've just got a broad network that is becoming more national as I go along, and just meet a lot of people. Talk to a lot of people and see what they're doing, and I often find I'm just connecting them. And it's nice to be able to do that. Just sort of know that they're going to be looked after, because there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of sharks out there, people that aren't doing the right thing, and that's not just in property. They're everywhere, and so it's just about finding people that have integrity and sharing them around, in the right way.
That was going to be my next question, to ask you to explain how you define yourself, or when you talk to people, what do you tell them that you do?
Yeah, I guess I kind of call it like a property entrepreneur now. I used to be property investor. So it varies, with what I'm doing, but I enjoy the business side of things now. I like seeing other businesses, how they function, how to make them better. That's something that's interesting me now that I can maybe tap into later, just how it works, because property was, I didn't have any tertiary training about business or anything. I just finished school and got into the theatre, which I loved. It was a really creative area to be in. But once I got into property, I had to learn how to run a business, and there was a lot of mistakes, and it was just sort of trial and error, and it's still trial and error. These days I still sort of, a friend of mine just calls it failing fast. You just get in, have a crack, stuff it up, move on, and I just do a lot of that now. I'm happy to make those mistakes, whereas before it was very much about getting all your ducks lined up in a row and finding the perfect deal and, making everything spot on. But now I've through a lot of different personal development, I've retrained myself to not be so focused on that. It's more about just getting something out there, getting it done, getting it finished to be assessed, and then it's not always going to be right, but at least you're moving forward. You're not sort of procrastinating because something's too big. I just wrote a blog post last night that was massive. It was an epic post, like 5,000 words, lots of images, video, and I knew I had to do it. I committed to it, and I started to procrastinate a little bit, and I get very I'm very aware of it when that happens now. So I have tools in place to sort of make sure that doesn't happen, because I don't like wasting time. So it was just last night that I finished it, and so I'm just wary of my personality type and how to work with the positives and the negatives to make sure I'm getting the most out of everything I do. So I guess this is how I am. You only get 4,000 weeks on this earth, so I'm told, if you're lucky. So I try to make the most of it. And I'm past halfway, so I need to keep cracking.
So that's an interesting point. So a lot of the listeners that I speak to who listen to this show, a lot of them, I guess they would describe themselves as part-time developers, in that they've got a full-time job and they're doing projects on the side with a view to try and do more so that they can become full-time developers.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice can you provide to them around putting those structures in place or the systems in place so that they can create a solid business? Like, what are the things they need to focus on, or what are the things that you've learned that you would then pass on?
Yeah, really good question, and there's probably a number of facets in the answer. First thing is consistency. So being consistent in everything you do. So that means being realistic about how much time you have to commit to being a property developer, and sticking to it. So if that's an hour a day, then do it an hour a day. Don't need 5 hours on the weekend and nothing. Do something every day that's going to take you closer to who and what you want to be. If that's a property developer, then doing those things to get you there. One of my mentors said, part-time effort, part-time result. So if it's a hobby, if it's part-time, that's the results you're going to get. If you have to do a full-time job as well, and that's the case for a lot of people, nothing wrong with that. You've got to transition in some way, but just be wary that the amount of time you put in is the results you're going to get out of it. So if you can put in more time, then great, but you might need to make some sacrifices to do that. But just be realistic. If you've got family commitments or social commitments that you need to attend to, then that's fine. But look for the areas that you can maximise your time. It might mean you don't watch telly anymore. Who was it? Martin Ailes said he calls it the time vanishing machine, the TV. So he packed it up in his shed, put the couch on top of it so he couldn't pull it out. And the amount of time that you have left is phenomenal. So making those sacrifices in whatever way you can to really commit. And then if you can do that consistently over, say, 6 months or a year, it's just phenomenal how much you can achieve. We underestimate how much we can achieve because we get so caught up in life and social media and things that emails, you've got to respond to. But getting focused, the 4-hour work week, great book to read. It just gets you really clear on how much time you have, how much time you need to be spending on things, what your goals are, what you're aiming for, and just sort of focusing on that. To go back to the question, I think it's if you can find a way to create income in addition to the job or in another way. So that what I'm trying to say here. So if you're in a full-time job and you want to become a full-time property developer, there's got to be a transition process. So for me, I just quit my job, which was ridiculous at the time. I was just too gung-ho. I just knew I wanted to do this, and I was so into it that I just left my job over 15 years and just went bang, okay, and pulled the security blanket out. Don't recommend anyone does that, and it was a silly decision at the time, but it forced me to move forward, and I had to retract a bit and go to the postie work and create some sort of income so I could eat. But it's about finding ways that can allow you to transition. So for me, it was the postie work. It was just a simple job that I didn't have to think too hard. The hours weren't great. That weren't too much. The money wasn't great, but it was a great transition job. So for someone else, it might be long service leave, or maybe you can do some of your work at home. A lot of people seem to be able to do that now, where the employee allows them to do some time at home. So that can free up time because you're not driving to work every day. Maybe it's taking a year off, if you've got a buffer there that you can work with, or maybe your partner can provide an income instead of you. It's all going to depend on your circumstance. Might have kids, you've got a family to support, whatever it is, but it's just about what is it in your life you can change to make it more focused on what you want to do. Better use of your time. And it's not going to be easy. I'm not really giving you the direct answer here. It's just about looking at your own life and seeing how you can change it. And just by asking yourself the question in the first place will bring up ideas. Maybe an online business. I've seen some people do that, where you're selling stuff on eBay, or you create some digital resource like I've been doing. It's not as simple as that. You can't just write something and put it out there and make money. It takes time. You've got to learn that as well. So that might be a detriment, because then you've got to focus on that, and it just becomes another distraction. So you've got to be clear on where you're going. And that's probably the third point, really, with your question is being laser focused on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and having that real deep emotional motivation to get there. Because I think if you don't have that, it just doesn't happen. It's not real enough. It's not important enough, because there's so many things that can get in the way. It's just so easy. You just got to turn your computer on, and bingo, you can lose 4 hours just looking at Facebook or surfing the net or whatever you want to do. So before you turn it on, before you even interact with anyone, I make sure I take time for myself and focus on what I want to achieve today. And if you can do that consistently every day, you don't waste time. And the only way to get there is to have that focus, is to have that reason behind you. You wake up every morning. What's your reason? Why are you doing this? If it's just to make money and build pretty houses, then it's not really going to sustain you. It might for a little while you got that passion, but it doesn't last. And so you just kind of need something else that's you can connect with emotionally to get you there.
Yeah, Henry Ford said, if you've just got a business that's making money, it's not a very good business.
It's got to be something more than that. That's right. Yeah, for us, we raise a lot of money now for a charity that we're close to, and that's becoming like a bigger picture for me, where that inspires me more. We've created a lifestyle that we wanted. We're still doing property, but what else can we do? And that's something else that drives me now. So my mum was diagnosed with cancer, so we're setting up a foundation that we can assist with that, and that's really inspiring for me. That's something that gets me up every morning, like, okay, what are we going to achieve today? So if you can have something like that, and it doesn't have to be a cure for cancer. It doesn't have to be to spend more time with your family. It can be something really, materialistic, if that's what floats your boat. Not judging anyone there. It's just, you just got to be really connected to it. And so it might take a bit of time to find that. I encourage people to sit down and just get clear on what that is, and ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Just keep asking yourself for months if you need to come up with the answer, because that's what will sustain you over decades. I think, if you're really clear on those reasons.
Yeah, I think some people call it purpose. You can define your life's purpose or mission, then you can keep tapping into that well of inspiration to keep you going. Yeah,
and it changes too. Your reasoning changes along the way, so it's constantly assessing that, and doing the personal growth that goes along with it is something that it took me a while to learn. It took me a few years to actually wake up and go, it's me that's holding me back. Right. Okay. So there was a point in time for me in property where I couldn't actually make any more money than I was making in my job, because I had this mindset that that's how much I was worth. And so no matter what I did, no matter what strategy I did, I couldn't earn more than that wage. And which sounds ridiculous when I look back on it, but it was a sabotage thing that I had there, and I just had to do the personal development to get through that. And it wasn't anything crazy, I wasn't abused as a child or anything ridiculous. It was just, well, not ridiculous, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't work through, and resolve. And so once I did that, it opened things up substantially, and it's still there now. It used to be something I thought you could just tick a box and great, done my personal development course, I'm off now, but it's not at all. It's an ongoing thing. It's something that's I embrace now. It's not something I run away from. It's like, okay, great, this is a bit scary. Excellent. That means there's some really good rewards on the other side, so it's exciting.
Yeah, one of my past guests, John Marquez, used to talk about, or he did talk about that little voice in the back of your head telling you all these reasons why you couldn't do things, and how you just had to try and shut it off and push forward.
Yeah, we've all got it. I don't care who you are. There's always going to be something that scares you or something that's going to hold you back. And I actually think 70% of what we do is all in your mind, and just having that, just having the tools to work through it. So when you do get that that scumbag voice, as I'm told it is, you're able to counteract it, and and sometimes you're going to have the down days where you can't, and you just want to wallow, but wallow for 24 hours and then that's it. Move on. Get clear on who's in charge, and then keep moving forward, because it can stunt you for a long time. And I think that's a big part of the success of anyone now. Whether it be property development, business, stock market, anything, whatever you're doing to try and create wealth with, you've got to have that right mindset.
Yeah, it's true, and I believe you can trick the brain as well. It's a clever system, but it can also be tricked.
Yeah, fake it till you make it sort of scenario where it's just having a go. I'm not saying there isn't risk. There's a lot of risk in property development, and thousands of things can go wrong. One thing can go right, and that's you make money at the end of it. And it's all about mitigating those risks. But you've still got to have, at some point, you've got to pull the trigger, and have a crack or take yourself to the next level if you've been doing it for a while and you want to move up the ladder for whatever reason. It's going to be scary. You just take that next step, and that's what life's about. Just keep improving.
So speaking of keeping sharp, you obviously were assessing lots of deals at one point. What were the kind of things that you were looking out for, and what were the measures that you were putting in to mitigate any of those risks that you identified?
Very project-specific sort of question. Every deal is just so different. And there's always a surprise. That's the one consistent thing. There's always something there that trips you up, or you just didn't think about, or whatever. The market changes. There's always going to be an unknown, which is kind of the exciting part of it. So it's always, for me, what's the worst case scenario, which is, I'm not a negative sort of person, but it's something that I've learnt to do. What is the worst thing that can go wrong, or what's my absolute worst fallback position here with this deal, and can I live with that? And that kind of end up being the one question. Apart from all the feasibilities that you do, the number crunching, the market research, whatever it is, there's a lot of facets to it. But what's the worst case scenario here? And there's probably a few of them. And it's just about being upfront about them and being clear on what they are, and then having a written strategy on how you'll deal with it when or if it happens. Because no matter how much planning you do, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We could have another. In Brisbane, we had that big flood that changed things. That could happen again. GFC could come back. Someone told me the other day that Australia just had their first negative inflation for the quarter or something. I didn't even know that. So might be a little bit out of touch there. So things could be changing. Who knows? But it's just being ready for that, and accepting that anything can happen, and just be prepared to go with it, and have that backup plan. But for specifics of the deals, I guess you focus on a 20% profit on costs, cash on cash return, risk scenarios, all that sort of stuff. But in the end, it's just comes down to what's the worst thing that can go wrong, and can I deal with that? Can I live with that? Yeah.
So, Matt, can you give us an example of what one of those worst case scenarios might look like in actuality or on paper?
Yeah, let me think of an example.
I'm thinking you have to sell at a loss, or you just have to hold the site until the market improves, or what's
okay. As far as what happens after that, yeah, okay.
Well, when you're looking at a deal and you're thinking, what's a worst case scenario? What is a worst case scenario, and then what would you do in that instance?
Yeah, worst case scenario is that you're looking at a loss. That's the worst case scenario. So if it's the market's changed trend, or you've created a product that no one wants, or whatever, it's about holding it, or having the ability to sell at a loss to move on. Haven't had to do that, but have you got the backing to do that? What would happen if you had to really move things at a fire sale price to allow yourself to move on? Implementing creative strategies like we've done before, a vendor finance scenario, where we had a product that was it was not selling. It was the wrong product for the market. The market had turned, overcapitalized. A number of things went wrong with it, but we ended up vendor financing it. So we came out of a potential loss situation, and turned it into a positive gearing scenario, which meant our capital was tied up in the project, which wasn't ideal, but it meant we didn't go backwards. So that was the main thing. So just assessing that and going, okay, how would I deal with that? And that was one of the strategies that we implemented. Just looking at a file sale price, really going, okay, what's going to move this thing tomorrow? What's going to get me out of this tomorrow? And knowing that the numbers still stack up with that, that you can get out of it, because I can't remember who told me, 1 in 5. It was Leon, actually. The Leon factor, which was 1 in 5 deals, you'll make a loss. So you've got to factor that into your return on the other 4 deals, so that you're kind of almost expecting something to go wrong, and you got to account for that along the way. So not a nice scenario to have to look at, thinking, okay, I'm expecting to make a loss on my 5th deal, but it's just a reality thing where you don't have control, and you just need to be preparing, your capital base for something that may go wrong, and are you going to be able to handle that, or is it going to just wipe you out and then you've got to go back to work? And that's probably the thing that scares me the most is, oh my God, I've got to go back to work. I'm screwed. That's something that has woken me up a couple of times, where it's like, okay, this is getting too close to the bone. I might have to pull out here. And never had to do that, but it's a good little fear thing that bubbles behind me every now and then, that keeps me focused. When you can get complacent when things are going good, it's nice to have something that you can go, okay, remember that. Remember you had to do that. That sucked. Let's not go there again. So it kind of keeps you within reality. You don't get too ego focused about something. You just keep reality in check.
So does that mean that you now maintain some kind of capital cushion?
Yeah, that's something we set up before we moved to France, because I didn't really know how it would all go. It was very different what we were doing. I basically, packed everything into a shed and brought the kids over here, and I kind of wanted to have enough there to have, if I didn't have anything at home, didn't have any income, I wanted to have a base there that I could live off, and we were going to be safe and healthy and have a good lifestyle. So yeah, that is something that I do work with. I just like to have a buffer. So if we do a project, we'll try not to use our own money, just out of pure leverage. But it's also a good thing to have cash in the bank there for if something does go wrong, you can go, right, bang, there's $100,000 or whatever you need to get you out of it, because a partner pulled out, or there was a death or something. Who knows? You can just keep moving forward. The worst thing that can happen, as you know, is a project stops because of an influence from the outside. That's the worst thing that can happen. So it's always about having the resources to continue going forward, no matter what. And I think having a capital base is a good backup, and also multiple streams of income. Having not just your property development business, you might have cash somewhere, or you might have passive income, you might have an online business or something else you do. But having those multiple streams, I think, it just gives you peace of mind, really.
And I think you mentioned earlier that you haven't held any of the stock from projects that you've done, but you're looking to change that in the future.
Yeah, we're doing that now, where we're in a better position to borrow money. So it took a while to get to that point, and now it's more about investing in projects where we don't just get a return. It's about holding something in the development. So that's our focus more now. So because we can, and it's just been something that's been missing in our wealth creation plan, where we've been making money and building a capital base, but I'd like to have a decent portfolio that we're down the track that we live off, or we can sell down, or we just have more leverage there. So yeah, that's something that I guess we missed in the beginning. It was just all about survival and getting the deal done, getting paid, and then going on to the next one, and kind of leapfrogging deals. which has kind of been slow. But now we can have our fingers in a few different pies. Yeah, it's about building that portfolio more, which is probably something that I missed, I guess, in the early days, because I was more focused on just, getting it done and surviving.
Yeah, now you're more involved in joint ventures. Can you share a little bit about what you're looking for in a deal to make your eyes light up or to get your juices flowing and get you interested? Obviously, there's a return, the sort of 20% return, but what other kind of things are there?
For me, it's because I've got the 2 or 3 colleagues that I work with regularly. I'm often guided by them because they're better at it than me, and the deals they're doing are phenomenal deals, as far as buying extremely well and providing really good products that the market are craving. They just do it so well, and so for me, it's kind of I look at the deal and I see the numbers, and it's for me, I get excited about the lifestyle that it's providing, rather than the deal itself. I mean, I love property and I love seeing what's being created and the leverage and the people involved. But in the end, it's not the deal that it's not the end result anymore. Whereas in the beginning it was about that. It was the excitement of doing that and creating something that wasn't there before, and building homes or providing land. But now it's I love the numbers. I mean, I love doing the numbers. I love seeing the numbers, working them out, looking at the feasibilities. But the end result is, for me, it's the joy of working with friends, and colleagues, and creating something that wasn't there before, and bringing others with us. So we might bring in a money partner or two, and this might be their first deal or their second deal, and they get a result from it that they deserve. Like some people in my group that I've seen for a while and they've struggled a bit, or they just haven't been able to commit to it or succeed, and so be able to go, well, hey, how about you chuck a few $100,000 into this deal? It's very safe. This is the track record we've got. This is what it's going to be, and you don't have to really do anything, but you'll be a part of it, and to see that come to fruition and go, that's the end result, and you've made as much money as you would have made in your job this year, is really gratifying, to be able to bring others with it. And like you say, it can be lonely, so it's nice to be able to give back and see others be a part of that win. So yeah, that really floats my boat, and yeah, seeing it being created and come to fruition, and that's exciting as well. But for me, it's more about just working with people that I love working with, and being around the excitement of it, and seeing how problems are handled, and that networking sort of feel, and then sharing it with others. We then sometimes present those deals to the group, or show them what mistakes we made, or whatever. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, the environment that you've created, because you've surrounded yourselves with all these people who are interested in property, and you've probably unexpectedly created somewhat of a funding funnel with all these people who are interested but can't get in for whatever reason. They don't have the time, or it just hasn't worked out. And because of the effort that you've put in over time, you've created that network.
Yeah, it definitely has in some circumstances. We're really careful with who we do bring in, and the meetings aren't about finding funding partners, but sometimes it just happens like that.
Yeah, sure.
And we've learnt to really focus on the person rather than the resources they can provide, because we've had joint venture partners that haven't been suitable, and it's just painful. It's for whatever reason. So we focus more on the personality now. Okay, if you want to be a part of this deal, you got to do this personality profile, and we need to sit down and talk about, well, as you would, you've got to build trust and rapport, but it's about finding that click where you can, just work with someone that has the same risk profile as you, that is at the same sort of, not the same skill level, but has the same understanding of what is happening. They're not sort of freaking out once the money's on the table. It's not going to hinder anything. Even if they've got no decision-making process within the deal, they can still affect it if they're not ready to do it, or their mind hasn't they haven't done a multi-million-dollar project before, and it's just too much to conceptualize, and that brings fear, and that affects the deal. So for us, it's about getting clear on who we're working with, rather than, oh great, you got $500,000 to put in, bingo, sign here. It's just, I'd rather know who you're working with first, and we've just built up a pool of people now that we kind of roll the deals over to, and that's a lot easier because you've worked with them before.
Well, I think Warren Buffett says that life's too short to work with people that you don't like.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to have fun along the way. You want to. I love rewarding people that come in and are a part of it. It's great. In the past we've had Christmas parties where all kind of the developers that have been working together, or whoever's been involved, will just have our own Christmas party because no one's going to throw up for us, and so we'll just get together and.
I was going to say, we should all go along to the council Christmas party, shouldn't we? With all the money that we're pumping into them.
Giving them enough money. Oh, yeah. We actually do it. We do a boat cruise every year with, we've got like a platinum membership. It's part of the networking group, and they pay a little bit extra and they get a bit more time with me. And it's just a really good bunch of people. And we actually hire a boat, and there's probably about, 60 or 70 of us. And it's around Christmas, and it's just a nice way to celebrate what we've achieved that year and what we've been able to accomplish, and just to be around others that are doing the same thing. They're all having a crack in their own way. They're all different skill levels. They've had their own successes and challenges, and just to be around that, and again, just in that supportive environment, but in a fun social environment as well. It's just nice to be able to enjoy what we do. Yeah.
Isn't that what developers do every day? Just go on boat cruises and have parties.
We work hard, don't we? I mean, it's a lot of work and a lot of time, but the difference is you do it under your own steam, or you do it the way you want to do it, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I was driving home today in the car, and I was thinking about this because at the end of the project, when you talk to people and they'll just say, I just did a 20 townhouse project or whatever it is, and they're kind of just, they're going to go, oh yeah, that sounds good, and oh wow, but they have absolutely no clue about how much effort was involved. They think, oh yeah, you just buy the land, you build 20 houses and you sell them. Build it. There is so much more to it than that. The twists and turns along the way. It's just a real journey. So it might sound easy, but it's not.
No, we're problem solvers more than anything. It's just constantly solving problems, and moving the thing forward. A deal never goes perfectly. And that's part of the fun. There's always going to be something that crops up, and just being able to deal with that, and the more experience you get, the better you are at dealing with it. I
think the two key skills for a developer is problem solving, number one, and then being able to work with people. So, managing your team and the different personalities that are involved.
Yep, spot on. Yeah, it's a people business. To get things moving forward, you've got to be able to manage people to do that in a diplomatic way where they want to do it. But in the end, no one cares more about the deal than you. So you've got to be the one driving it, and to do that, you're exactly right. You've got to solve problems and communicate well.
What's your top tip for developers out there?
Top tips. Probably don't be too keen to get a deal on the table. Is something I've learned. The ability to say no, which is hard. Sometimes you want to make a deal work, and not forcing it to work, or not trying to fudge it or think you can do more than you can. I think that's something I've really learned, is just the ability to say no and be patient. And the market's going up, great. Don't feel like you're going to miss out or anything. It's just stick to the strategy, stick to your plan, do your numbers, and don't be impatient about. I know colleagues that have waited years for deals. Where yes, they're not full-time developers, but they're doing high-end developments, and they'll have a criteria, and they just won't deviate from it. And they've been very successful. In the beginning, I thought, geez, it's taken a while to get something rolling, get something on the line, but by being patient, they've become very, very successful in the deals that they do. And I think it's about making those inroads to those networks to get those deals onto the table, and that just takes time with building those networks, whether it's with agents, with other developers, builders. It just takes time to get those inroads, but once they're there, it's just it's a massive pipeline, and it's being able to then manage that influx. So not being impatient, the ability to say no. And having a real reason for long-term success. I think having a real reason. What are you spending the money on? What's it for? It's great to have passion and do what you do and provide homes for people. It's fantastic. Keep thinking what's after that, because I find that you've got to keep aiming higher, or you get to a goal and you kind of got to have the next goal ready. Otherwise, you spend too much time sort of celebrating, and then all of a sudden time just goes by, and as you know, with development, you've got to have the next thing ready to go. Otherwise you start going backwards. So I think it's just about always assessing what you want to get out of this, why you want to get that out of it, and that'll forward you on to the next thing. And another stream of income, I think, depends on where you are in your skill level. I know your listeners are advanced, and people may well be doing multiple deals at once, so that is the income. But something I've learned is just having multiple streams. If the market goes pear-shaped or something hits us that we can't control, being able to change track to something else. It might not be your core business or your main focus, but it's just something that it just helps take the pressure off, I think, and allows you to make better decisions, because you're not under pressure to get that deal done. You're always under pressure to get the deal done, but if you didn't have that deal, you'll still be able to survive. It's something we ask our joint ventures all the time. Is this deal? What happens if you don't make money out of this deal? Does it mean you're going to go under? Does it mean you're not going to eat? Or how important is it that this deal succeeds for you? And not that we don't want it to succeed, it's just getting an idea of how desperate they are. If you're desperate, then you make really poor decisions because you're under pressure. So don't ever put yourself in that position. And I think to not be in that position, just having multiple streams of income sometimes reduces that level of stress, and it helps you stay focused, allows you to think and have good ideas and make informed decisions, and helps you to grow, I think.
All right, Matt. Well, I know that you've got croissants that you want to go and eat. So where can people find out more about you if they want to find out more about you?
Just go to the website, propertyresourceshop.com. That's become a really vibrant community there, I suppose. I'm posting blogs there every week. I have been doing so for the last 6 months now. I'm on a roll. So it's something that I'm committed to doing, and just providing good content for people. If you're in Southeast Queensland, we run the monthly property networking group meetings. I'd encourage you to come along to that. The Brisbane one's free for the first time, or it's $30 after that, so it's not expensive. And just some really quality people that attend that. So if you're there, come along to that, and drop me a line. The contacts page is on there. If you've got a question for me, I'm always happy to give back. I'm in a different time zone, so it might take a little longer than normal, but I like to hear people's stories, where they're at, and if I can help in some small way, then, like I said before, it's a privilege to be able to do that. So I'm happy to connect.
Fantastic. Well, Matt Jones, I'm very grateful to you for being on the Property Developer Podcast.
My pleasure, mate. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope listeners get some benefit out of our conversation. And hopefully we can hook up when I'm back in Australia.
Yes, it'd be great. I'd love to catch up.
Sounds good. I'll come and visit you down in Melbourne.
Yes, that'll be nice. Well, I'll wish you bon voyage
Merci.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. À tout à l'heure.
See you, Matt.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with property entrepreneur Matt Jones, and that it inspires you to think about getting to the point where you can take yourself off to another country for a few years to immerse yourself in the culture and reflect on your success, or to manage your business from afar. I really like how Matt understands his purpose and uses that to guide his decisions. I'd encourage you to do the same. I took quite a few things out of our discussion, and here are my top 3. 1. Be laser focused about your purpose. This may sound a bit nebulous, but it all boils down to why are you doing things? Why do you want to be a developer? Why do you want to deliver successful projects? Is it to spend more time with your family? Buy some freedom? Buy a Ferrari? Whatever is most meaningful to you is what will continue to inspire you each day. You need to find out what your purpose is and remind yourself about it each day. 2. Be consistent. I like this idea of consistency. Matt talked about consistently using your time. So if you have 7 hours a week to do developing, do 1 hour a day, not all of it on the weekend. If you can allocate time every day to do the things that will help you get to where you want to go, sooner or later you will get there. As the saying goes, you get out what you put in. 3. Don't be too keen to get a deal on the table. I know what it can be like finding a site and really wanting it to work, and massaging the numbers to get it across the line. However, you need to develop the ability to say no. Don't force a deal to work. Don't fudge the numbers or think you can do more than you actually can. Stick to your numbers and keep working on the next deal until it clicks, and then pull the trigger. Okay, that's all for this show. Thanks again for listening in. Drop by the website to leave a comment or check out my latest project pics. You can find me on Instagram too, at Property Developer Podcast. Join the fun as I regularly post pictures of sites and developments I see around the place. And of course, drop by iTunes and leave us a review. I would be grateful if you did. So until next time, may all your croissants be filled with chocolate. Au revoir.
You've been listening to the Property Developer Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips, ideas, and inspiration to take your developing to the next level. For more developing love, make sure to visit propertydeveloperpodcast.com.